In Judaism, there are lots of customs, but there is one that stands head and shoulders above the rest. This custom has been accepted not just by one group of Jews, Ashkenazim or Sephardim, but rather by all Jews. Getting us to agree on one thing is a pretty remarkable accomplishment. The custom in question is not just a tweak to one of the prayer services, a way of phrasing something or a particular melody, but rather it is an entirely new weekly prayer service. And it is called Kabbalat Shabbat, the welcoming of the Sabbath. It's based on some Talmudic scholars who would go out into the fields to welcome the Sabbath every Friday evening. But in the mystical city of Tzfat, back in the 16th century, it gained wonderful shape and form. The centerpiece is a beloved song written by Rabbi Shlomo Alkovitz. L'chadodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabbalah. Come, my beloved, to greet the bride, let us welcome the Sabbath together. And at the end of this prayer, the entire congregation rises and faces the entrance to the synagogue in the west and says, "Come in, O bride, come in, O bride." And thus we have welcomed the Sabbath into our midst. It's beautiful. But what is the power of this beloved custom? In this week's Torah reading, Moses gathers the entire congregation together. He makes an assembly to explain to them a few things. First of all, the Sabbath. They have to keep the Sabbath. Specifically, he mentions that it is forbidden to light a fire on the Sabbath day. And then he explains to them that they need to start bringing the materials and begin constructing the holy sanctuary, the tabernacle in the wilderness. And the rabbis teach us that these two things are coming for a reason in the order that they came. First the Sabbath, then the sanctuary, to show that the Sabbath takes precedence over the sanctuary, over the tabernacle. One may not perform any labor, even to make a tabernacle, on the Sabbath day. Great. But why gather the entire people together? Why not teach it like the rest of the commandments in a smaller forum and it spreads out to the rest of the people? When I was a kid in school, we knew that if the principal called everybody together for an emergency assembly, something important was up. So what was up now? Why was it necessary to gather the whole nation to hear this law about the Sabbath being supreme over the tabernacle and, by the way, lighting the fire? Why did everybody have to be there for this? Regarding fire, there are a couple of answers why it's singled out. A beautiful ethical explanation that says that fire is a parable for anger and argument. The Sabbath day should be a day of peace, not of fighting. So we shouldn't light a fire that could destroy someone else emotionally. Beautiful. There's another Talmudic opinion, which I would like to focus on, and that says that the Torah singles out fire from all of the Sabbath labors to teach us that it is not as strict as the other labors. The punishment for fire lighting on the Sabbath is less severe than it is for all of the other labors, cooking, building, sewing, etc. But why? What is unique about lighting a fire? First, let's ask a more basic question. Why indeed does the Sabbath prevent building a tabernacle? Why is the Sabbath more important? Indeed, the rabbis in the Midrash imply the same question. They point out that the tabernacle, once it's built, is functioning on the Sabbath. Sacrifices are being brought even on the Sabbath day in the temple. So I might think that if they can bring sacrifices in the temple, in the tabernacle on the Sabbath day, then certainly making that tabernacle should be allowed as well. Seems to be a logical inference, but there was a great rabbi from a century ago in Jerusalem, Rabbi Yosef Tzvi Dushinsky, who points out that this reasoning is flawed. You see, sacrifices are meant for atonement, and they are the main purpose of the tabernacle. But constructing the tabernacle is merely preparation. For example, when there is a circumcision to be done on the Sabbath, which is allowed, the mohel, the one doing the circumcision, is not allowed to violate the Sabbath to do preparations. In other words, everything has to be in place before. Only the main mitzvah is allowed on the Sabbath, not those things that could have been done yesterday. And well, the tabernacle is certainly in use on the Sabbath, bringing the sacrifices, but the preparation of building it should not supersede the Sabbath. So why is the Midrash asking this question? By the way, the Midrash answers, the simple answer, that that's why the Torah had to teach us this, because we might think otherwise. But why is there a thought that this is a logical thing? The tabernacle is only a preparation. Says Rabbi Dushinsky, it's not just a preparation. The building of the tabernacle itself is a sacrifice. The people had just sinned with the golden calf, and they felt terribly guilty. And now they have a chance to atone. There's a call to contribute and make a holy sanctuary from the same gold and silver that they had given to the calf, and this will bring them forgiveness. So if the actual sacrifices of the tabernacle can take place on the Sabbath, which bring atonement, I might also think that building the tabernacle, which also brings atonement, could take place on the Sabbath. Hence the Torah emphasizes that it does not. And perhaps this is why Moses needed to gather everybody together, because he saw that this is an error that might have easily been made. The people were eager to get the guilt of the golden calf off of their shoulders. They might have hastened to finish building this tabernacle, even at the expense of Sabbath observance. It's so important. Once I get it done, I'll keep every other Shabbos. How many times have we had that temptation? And so therefore Moses got us all together to say this is of critical importance. There is nothing more important than this. So why, by the way, was their reasoning wrong? Why was it wrong to say, let's go ahead and build the tabernacle? It is indeed an atonement. The great Rabbi Yosef Dov Soloveitchik makes a critical point, and he gives us an understanding that we must internalize if we really wish to grasp the beauty and power of the Sabbath. He says that the Sabbath is, in and of itself, a sanctuary. The purpose of the sanctuary, of the tabernacle, is to bring the Shekhinah, the divine spirit, the divine presence, into the heart of the nation of Israel. Well, that's what the Shabbos does. And it does it by focusing our attention on the fact that God created the world and rested on the seventh day. Indeed, the Israelites that Moses gathered here are called an Eidah. An Eidah means more than just a congregation. It comes from the root aid, which means witness. A congregation that bears witness. There is an interesting, sort of strange law regarding the Friday night prayers. One of the things we recite is the paragraph from Genesis describing how God rested on the seventh day of creation. And it's said by the whole congregation. But if there was an individual who was running late and hadn't caught up and wasn't able to say it together with the congregation, he may not say it by himself afterwards. He must approach another worshiper and say, hey, I didn't say Vayechulu, would you say it together with me? Why is this necessary? Because in Jewish courts of law, we only believe witnesses that come in pairs. And reciting this paragraph is testimony. Testimony from Genesis that God created the world, and therefore, since it is testimony, like all laws of testimony, it needs to be done by a pair of witnesses, not by an individual witness. So the divine presence that comes on the Sabbath isn't always automatic. We must be aware of it and testify to it. If we spend our Sabbath doing other things, even something so holy as building a tabernacle, we will miss the simple, powerful message of God's creation. Fire is unique among the labors of the Sabbath in that it does not create a lasting change. It's not like cooking or building, where once you've cooked something or built it, it's cooked and built. With fire, if you light it and do nothing with it and it goes out, nothing has been accomplished. And so I think that was what Moses was really teaching us about the Sabbath. That the Sabbath can't even be a preparation for the most holy of things. It is its own sanctuary. Don't even light a fire to use afterwards. Don't be waiting for the moment when the Sabbath ends to be out doing your work and your mind is already there. The Sabbath bride, mentioned in Rabbi Alkovitz's beautiful Lecha Dodi, is the divine spirit. And if we do not welcome her and cherish her presence every moment of the Sabbath day until the very end, she will not stay. And our Sabbath sanctuary will be lacking. And thus the wonderful custom of welcoming the Shabbos, especially Rabbi Alkovitz's beautiful prayer, has been adopted by all Jews. It is that prayer that turns our Saturdays into holy sanctuaries called Shabbat.